reports from the world's second largest continent. Hello, I'm Alison LaGrange. A very warm welcome from Durban, South Africa. We get you the news and the newsmakers from Africa. From elections to climate change to innovations and opportunities. As the world's attention shifts, we report from Africa, the heart of the global South. Join me every weekday live on First Post. Hello and welcome to First Post Africa, where we get you the top stories from the continent and from across the world. I'm Alison LaGrange, coming to you live from Durban, South Africa. First, let's take a look at the headlines. Iran calls Israel's deadly airstrikes on its military and nuclear sites a declaration of war and urges the United Nations Security Council to step in immediately. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi meets the sole survivor of the Air India plane crash in Ahmedabad that killed at least 268 people, calling it a tragedy that shook the nation. India and China agreed to fast-track the process to resume direct flights, suspended since the COVID-19 pandemic and deadly 2020 Galwan Valley clash. The announcement follows a high-level meeting in New Delhi between top diplomats of both countries. Cambodia orders troops on high alert and bans Thai TV shows amid rising tensions with Thailand over a disputed border zone. The move follows border clashes last month that left one Cambodian soldier dead. And nuclear-armed nations spent over $100 billion on atomic weapons last year, with the US alone accounting for more than half, says global anti-nuclear watchdog ICAN. Hello and welcome. We can't take our eyes off this story. There is so much happening and it's developing so fast. It's raising bigger questions about power, about police brutality. The images coming out of Kenya, it's just impossible to ignore. Here's the latest on Albert Ojwang. Now, what started as a custody death has turned into a national moment of reckoning. The air in Nairobi yesterday was tense. Violent clashes erupted. Security forces fired tear gas on crowds protesting the death of Albert Ojwang, the 31-year-old teacher who was jailed but didn't make it out alive. Take a look. Protesters hurled rocks at police officers, they torched cars, and a few even reportedly got injured by rubber bullets. The flashpoint of it all, the death of Ojwang. He died in a Nairobi cell last weekend. Police claimed that he hit his own head and died, but a post-mortem disputed that. It revealed that Ojwang was assaulted to death.
Because one of us was killed. He was picked from the village and brought here to Nairobi. I later heard he was killed. He was murdered by strangulation after he was severely beaten. He didn't die by hitting his head against the wall but was killed by police. That's why I am here. I am deeply pained.
And all of this is happening right as the Kenyan government tries to pass a budget. The current demonstrations have overshadowed that. The finance bill was tactfully designed. The administration wanted to avoid what happened in 2023. Last year, President Ruto-backed tax hikes descended the country into frenzy. Thousands had stormed the parliament, and Ruto was forced to scrap his plans. The current situation is almost giving flashbacks. Ojwang's death has thrown a match into a room full of dry papers. Ruto even admitted he died at the hands of police. But there's something different this time. The government played it safe. The new bill focuses just on taxing small businesses, not essential goods. The Finance Ministry has even introduced an online portal. Citizens can give feedback there, but the trust is still low. Last month, a software designer was arrested. He had made a website that mocked the budget. It let people email their complaints to the government offices. The point we are trying to make is this isn't just about one man. Kenya's police watchdog says that 20 people have died in police custody in just 4 months.
I'm here to fight police brutality. For long, we've witnessed police kill youths. It's something that has been here for long, and nobody talks about it. Nobody takes it serious. Now we've decided to end the police brutality. I'm here because of Ojwang. I'm here because of the so many youths that we lost last year. I'm here for Kenya.
Albert Ojwang is another name on that list. On the streets, people are chanting his name. They are demanding the resignation of Eliud Lagat, the officer Ojwang had criticized. A police officer has reportedly been arrested in connection to the case.
The interest of the IG of police, and we will not go until Eliud Lagat steps down. Eliud Lagat must step down. We are not going away. They rather kill us, they rather abduct us, but we will not leave. Lagat must step down.
So, what does this story tell us? You don't silence criticism by killing the critic. Albert Ojwang was a teacher. Now he is a symbol of police violence, of broken systems, and of a nation that has had enough. And for more on this, we have with us on the show Professor Machario, author and columnist, also a professor of history and international relations at the USIU Africa, joining us live from Nairobi, Kenya. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you very much.
Professor, how do you assess the Kenyan government's handling of the fallout from Albert Ojwang's death, particularly in light of its recent efforts to pass a budget aimed at avoiding unrest over tax hikes?
Well, the government has handled it very poorly. Could have done better than this. It is true that the president has finally come out and admitted that it happened under the police hands in a police cell. And what makes it even awkward was that just a few days before he had officially apologized to the Gen Zs for the wrongs that had been done to them. And then in that short time, then you have this killing of a teacher who happens to be a blogger. And his crime was supposedly criticize somebody. So it created a feeling that Kenya was going backward to the 1980s when being free to speak was almost a crime. And it backfired very badly for the people concerned, the officers concerned, and the police service in itself. It's not being taken very well across the board.
Mm. And what does the public reaction to Albert Ojwang's case reveal about the broader, long-standing issues of police accountability and civil liberties in Kenya?
Well, it appears as if the police are going backward and feeling so cocky that they can do anything they want and get away with it and come up with strange explanations. Similar to what was happening in 1990, when people are told that somebody shot himself and put himself under acid. Incredulous. So the question that comes up in the public mind is, who is advising the government or who is telling the police what to do? Because they appear to be clueless and not to be concerned with the welfare of the people, such that whatever they say is not believable. And this makes the government lose trust. And as long as it loses trust, then it has very little hold on the public. And it's happening in a very rapid way. And so now the government needs to rethink itself because it has lost the confidence of the public. And the Ojwang case is one of those episodes, not to mention the case of Njeri, who was arrested for developing a website on taxes. So everything is being done in the wrong way, not in the interest of the government at all.
Mm. Right. And also, given the timing of the protests and these tear gas clashes, do you foresee these tensions derailing the budget approval process or prompting political concessions from the administration?
If the protests intensify, of course, there will be some temporary concessions to appear to concede to some things. Because, in fact, the country was gearing up to the budget process this year in memory of last year. In fact, some people are calling for a holiday on June the 25th in commemoration of what happened. Now, what the Ojwang case has done is to make the situation worse than it would have been. So we are not very sure exactly how things would span out. But clearly there is tension, and the government needs to go back to the drawing board and appear to make concessions, if not make concessions, such that cool the temperatures. The arrogance of some people in the government is what really is grating the people. Once they see the differences, it's said that the government does not have resources to cater for education and health and various other things, and yet they also see luxury beyond means, display of arrogant luxury. And that in itself makes people very angry because they say the luxury being displayed is their tax money being misused instead of doing the right thing, like taking care of hospitals and the social and the education sector, which are practically collapsing at present. And people know that and they're very unhappy about it.
Right. Professor, thank you for being with us on Firstpost Africa and for your valued insights there.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Now moving to Zambia, where grief has met a political firestorm. Zambia is mourning, but not in peace, because a funeral row has exploded. And at the heart of it all is the family of the late President Edgar Lungu, who says that President Hakainde Hichilema is not welcome. Lungu's family says his last wish was clear. He wanted a private burial, and Hichilema, his longtime rival, should not be, quote-unquote, anywhere near his body. Now, this shocking claim came from family lawyer Machario Zulu. In a video from South Africa, he said, and I quote, "All logistics are in place. The family will not accept a state-led farewell, and that they want to honor Lungu on his terms." However, so far there is no agreement, but only rising tension. The late Edgar Lungu died last Thursday. He passed in South Africa at age 68. And his illness still remains undisclosed, but he was reportedly receiving specialized treatment. After his passing, the Zambian government declared national mourning for 7 days. Flags were lowered. The radio turned to gospel music, all because the former president was gone. But unity gave way to infighting. The state wants to honor him formally, and the Patriotic Front, his party, disagrees. The government wanted to fly Lungu's body back on Wednesday, but the PF and Lungu's family blocked it. They claimed that they would organize the return. They also allege something more serious, that Lungu had been denied travel for treatment. His family alleged that had he gone earlier, he might still be alive. However, the government denied it completely. Now, when not just the logistics, but even the venue was a problem, the government selected a Lusaka lodge, but the PF chose the party headquarters instead. And now mourners are left in limbo to pick a side. Even the condolence books are separate. The state set one up and the PF created a separate book. So now there are two places to write tributes. Now that's not the end. The PF announced their mourning period first and the government announced its own later. So while the nation grieves, confusion spreads. Who's in charge? Who decides the final goodbye? President Hichilema has said that nothing publicly, but the Foreign Minister, Malambo Haimbe, did travel to South Africa. He met with Lungu's widow, Esther, and daughter, Tasila, and he said that consultations are ongoing. But the message from Lungu's family was firm. We're not against a state funeral, they said, but we must be heard. So Zambia continues to wait, still unsure of how to mourn its sixth president. Will the man who ruled for 7 years be honored in unity or remembered through division? And moving on, let's shift our focus to West Africa, where Russia continues to deepen its ties and expand its influence in the region. Moscow has finally authorized a nuclear deal with two of its most notable West African friends, Mali and Burkina Faso. The ECOWAS breakaway states of Burkina Faso and Mali are on the cusp of finalizing a nuclear deal with Russia. This proposed agreement will see Russia's state atomic energy firm, Rosatom, taking the lead in constructing nuclear power facilities and research reactors in both countries. As per media reports, Rosatom will supply crucial services connected to the nuclear fuel cycle. This is aimed at firmly putting Russia at the foundation of the two countries' efforts to utilize nuclear energy for civilian purposes. This isn't Russia's first strategic move in Burkina Faso. Moscow already has a considerable footprint in the country's energy sector. The groundwork for these nuclear ambitions has been laid over time. A memorandum of understanding between Rosatom and Burkina Faso was signed in October of 2024 to establish a nuclear power facility in the country. Talks then intensified in March of this year, with both sides actively working on a proposal for a facility anticipated to ease energy constraints and to fuel industrial growth. And it's not just limited to nuclear power. In April of 2025, Burkina Faso's military-led administration granted an industrial mining license to Russia Gold Mining Corporation, Norgold, to commence operations on a new gold mine. The move came at a time when gold prices were skyrocketing and governments were looking for new revenue streams to help their faltering economies. The growing collaboration coincides with a momentous political realignment in West Africa. Burkina Faso, Mali and Niger are collectively known as the Alliance of Sahel States, or the AES. On the 29th of January this year, the alliance formally announced their exit from the Economic Community of West African States, or ECOWAS. And the decision followed sanctions and criticism from ECOWAS regarding the military coups that brought the current administrations to power. Now, this criticism prompted these nations to pivot away from Western institutions and to embrace Russian backing in key sectors. In September of 2024, the three AES countries signed agreements with Moscow to acquire communications and surveillance satellites. These technologies are aimed at bolstering border security and enabling encrypted communications across the AES nations. Now, these strategic moves are aimed at strengthening Russia's influence in the region's security architecture. Now it remains to be seen as to what will be the global impact of Moscow's growing collaboration with its West African allies. And moving on, as Russia expands security ties across Africa, China is expanding its influence via economic means. This week, Beijing announced plans for a sweeping zero-tariff initiative for African exports. It is offering duty-free access to all 53 countries on the continent that maintain diplomatic ties with China. The announcement was made in a joint statement issued after a high-level meeting between China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi and African officials in the Chinese city of Changsha. At the forum, Wang Yi further underscored the need for solidarity and self-reliance in China-Africa relations.
China and Africa must stand in solidarity and pursue self-reliance. We must remain firmly on the right side of history, proactively spearheading the course of our times. The stability and resilience of China-Africa relations serve a counterbalance to global uncertainty.
In a message to the forum, Chinese President Xi Jinping said Beijing would provide more convenience for the least developed countries in Africa to export to China. This includes measures to improve market access, inspections, quarantine rules, and customs clearance procedures to boost trade. At the same time, China also pledged to train African professionals to implement these measures and to promote quality products from these countries. Now, the move comes amid growing trade tensions between African nations and the United States. U.S. President Donald Trump has imposed sweeping reciprocal tariffs on African countries, including up to 50% on imports from Lesotho, 47% from Madagascar, and 40% from Mauritius, among others. Although the reciprocal tariffs have been temporarily paused, a 10% baseline tariff remains in place, significantly impacting duty-free benefits. Under Washington's Africa Growth and Opportunity Act, the AGOA Act. Now, this has opened the door for China to expand its trade footprint and to become Africa's largest trading partner. Trade reportedly hit a record high in the first 5 months of this year, reaching about $134 billion. Total trade allegedly touched nearly $300 billion last year. By comparison, Africa's trade with the United States was valued at around $72 billion last year. Still, amid its economic push, China has excluded one nation from the latest zero-tariff initiative, and that is the landlocked Southern African Kingdom of Eswatini. The joint statement from Changsha clearly noted the exclusion, and this is likely because Eswatini recognizes Taiwan as an independent country, while China regards it as a breakaway province. China has repeatedly pressured Eswatini to shift its diplomatic allegiance to Beijing, but the Southern African country has allegedly rejected Beijing's overtures. So while Eswatini stands apart, China's zero-tariff initiative represents its most comprehensive trade concession to Africa yet. With trade soaring and diplomatic ties deepening, Beijing is not just trading with Africa, it is reshaping the continent's economic alignments. And that's it on the show for today. We will see you again at the same time on Monday. Thank you for watching. Have a great weekend and goodbye.